Who would win in a fight? George of the Jungle or Encino Man?
Whoa, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing with Brendan Fraser in Encino Man is he's surprisingly not ripped. Like you would expect him to be more muscly, but they didn't do any work at all on him. Whereas he really buffed up for George of the Jungle. So
yeah, dude.
I think I got to give it to
like
George.
Shredded for George of the Jungle. Well, plus George of the Jungle has like a certain amount of, like toon powers where he can like lift up a lion and spin it around on one finger.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser is a big guy.
He's large. He's tall.
And he's imposing. And,
sometimes he's a whale.
Wow, he is. That's not what I mean, though. But no, like his character in Encino Man is a big guy as well. Like if he walked up to you, you'd be like, whoa, it's a big guy.
Wait, no, I got to tell you about Stephen Colbert made fun of this, but it was Brendan Fraser accepting the Academy Award for his role in The Whale. And he just made so many like water references. Like, it's so great to be on this ship sailing toward all of our whales. And all you people out there are just like these wonderful marine animals.
And as we sail across the sea of Hollywood together, let us all take a deep breath from our blowholes of integrity and dine on the krill of success.
Colbert's like, has he watched his movie?
Did he not realize that the movie wasn't about an actual whale?
Because it's not about a whale.
Wow. Maybe he didn't know what... I mean, I've heard him talk about his character, though. He definitely knew what his character was. And
I think he got up on stage, his mind blanked, and all he could think of was whale.
I mean, it's like, quite possible.
Ocean stuff. And speaking of the Academy Awards, this movie that we're talking about, Encino Man, has 2 people in it who won the Academy Award in 2023. It's pretty weird.
Oscar winners.
It's got Brendan Fraser
and it's not Paulie Shore.
Kwan. I'm not sure how you say his name, but yeah, Ke Huy Kwan.
Short round. Like 2 of my favorite actors ever when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, but of course, Mr. Kwan is not exactly featured front and center in this movie. He's maybe in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think the point of that Academy Award thing was you can expect great things from this movie, Encino Man.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Oscar-worthy material.
You can expect anything you want from this movie.
But if you're like most people, you probably expect nothing and have never heard of it.
It has relatively famous actors in it, though. It's got, of course, Brendan Fraser, we already mentioned.
Sean Astin.
It's got Paulie Shore. It's got Sean Astin. Like those are all names that people know. It's Sam.
Maybe at one point people knew Paulie Shore.
People still know who he is.
People don't know Sean Astin's name. They know he was.
No, I
Sam.
I mean, I
always want to call him Corey Feldman, which I know is not his name.
No, he's not Corey Feldman. Like I've known Encino Man basically for as long as I remember. And I understand that a lot of people probably don't know Encino Man, but apparently for whatever reason, it was a movie that our dad just had to have like at release. And then we watched it like very often, like over and over, which looking back, I now realize is probably because it was like a relatively inoffensive and tame family movie. So he's like, this one's fun. Enjoy. I'll turn this on every once in a while. Right. Like it was just an easy choice. But there's one small detail about this movie that has always bugged me. Could a frozen caveman from thousands of years ago come back to life after being thawed out?
No.
And the answer is no. This could not happen. And it is never explained in this movie at all. They don't even try to explain it. It just happens.
It happens twice.
No, that's always been my main sticking point with this movie. Even as a kid, I was like, wait a minute. That couldn't happen.
The screenwriting rule is you're allowed one unbelievable thing at the beginning of your script.
But what if they do it again at the very end?
Well, yeah. I mean, if we've already accepted that it could can happen.
It could be okay. Yeah. Either way, I think it's too unbelievable, especially in a movie where no other unbelievable things happens. So today I'm going to right this great injustice. I'm going to try to give a reason for the crazy things that happen in this movie. I have a theory that Link, the caveman, played by Brendan Fraser, he was not a caveman. He was actually Stoney, played by Paulie Shore. He was Stoney's half-brother. And they concocted a plan together to pretend that he was a caveman and live with Dave and basically mooch off of him for the rest of the school year.
Wheeze all this
wheeze
stuff.
lots of
not
juice.
mooch.
Wheeze everything. Yeah. So wait, what is the plot of ENCINO Man? What's this movie all about?
Okay, so there's this teenage loser who's like just a total prick. He's just like the most irredeemable protagonist ever. Anyway, played by Sean Astin.
You're of course talking about Dave. Yeah, Dave played by Sean Astin.
There's a teenager named Dave, played by Sean Astin, and he wants to be popular. He also wants to dig a pool. Mm-hmm. He has a best friend named Stoney, but you probably know him better as Paulie Shore. If you don't know who Paulie Shore is, he's the guy from the Goofy movie who says, "A little smoky.
It's the leaning tower of cheese."
Yeah, he's that guy who talks that way. Anyway, basically, David just wants to be popular, and he finds a frozen caveman in his backyard as he's digging a pool, which is a weird thing to be doing.
Yeah.
He finds a caveman for some reason, thinks this will make him popular.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's never explained.
Know why.
Like, I have no idea what his thought process is.
It seems like he wants to be famous, but he doesn't. He hides the fact that it's a caveman, which is the thing that makes him interesting. So I'm not totally sure what's going on.
It makes zero sense. It's the weirdest. I don't know. Dave is just like, he's unhinged. He's got problems. Like he's just like a total dirtbag, and he's also a moron.
Bad. He's attracted to a young woman named Robin, spelled with a Y. Who, as it turns out, Robin, luckily for David, is attracted to dirtbags. She's dating a guy named Matt, who's a total dirtbag.
She's also attracted to cavemen.
Yeah, she's attracted to cavemen and bullies and weaselly. Well, she's not attracted to weasels.
No, she doesn't like weasels.
Anyway, sorry, we're probably going to be talking about weasels a whole bunch. Just to give context for that, for some reason, Paulie Shore's character, Stoney, says he is a weasel and uses the term wheeze a lot, which seems to be what we would call mooch in this day and age.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the plot. David is a bad guy.
Like a fish out of water story. Caveman
Brendan
comes
Fraser,
back to life,
who they call Link,
tries to blend in as a high schooler.
Yeah, kind of becomes a high schooler. Doesn't really try to blend in, but they sort of force him to. And people love Link. Link gets popular. David, who is, as we said, a total dirtbag, doesn't like that, so he tries to get rid of Link. And then Paulie Shore's character, who, as it turns out, is actually a very nice guy, and also, despite what you may think, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. He manages to kind of make peace, and really without David doing anything at all, things turn out fine in the end. Link lost his girlfriend in the Ice Age, and she also thaws out at the very end, and he gets back together with his cave woman, and they all live happily ever after. And I guess David gets together with Robin at the very end, which doesn't really make any sense. But
I always just absolutely loved the fact that for whatever reason, the main character of this movie is obsessed with digging a pool. Like, not paying people who know how to build a pool to help him build a pool. Like, no, he just wants to dig it. He just assumes that if he digs a big hole in his yard, it will become a pool. And lo and behold, at the end of the movie, it does.
A very muddy, gross pool.
I always just love that. I thought it was the funniest, weirdest thing. It's like, why does he want to dig a pool? Why does he think this will work? Oh, it did work. He's got a pool.
It would be gross and muddy, and people shouldn't be swimming in it. Was there a rainstorm? I don't even know why it suddenly filled with water.
No. There's actually a reason for that. In universe, and it's never explained in the movie. It's actually, we can get into this later.
Stoney's journal?
It's explained in Stoney's ENCINO High notebook.
There was a book published in conjunction with this movie.
There sure was, and we tracked it down. In that book, it explains that what happened was the rest of the glacier that was underground right there melted and filled the pool with water. That's what
not
happened.
how ice works.
No. And then that pool would be like incredibly
It doesn't expand
frigid.
when it melts.
It'd be so cold.
It would be a sinkhole.
Yes, it would.
Like a deadly sinkhole.
Oh, boy. So, let me tell you a little more about this theory. It might sound crazy, right? The movie's clearly about a caveman. How could it not be about a caveman? Well, I already said he would have been dead if he was a caveman. So we know he wasn't a caveman, right? We're gonna go under the assumption that, real life physics, real life anatomy is also present in this movie, and if he had frozen, he would have died. We know from that he was not frozen. He was just a guy.
Walt Disney is rolling in his frozen grave right now.
Well, we know that Stoney came from a bad family situation. I believe that Stoney and his half-brother Link got kicked out. And there's good evidence for this in the movie as well. And Stoney figured that he would fix him and Link up with a nice place to stay, a good haircut, food and money, and also maybe teach his loser friend Dave a lesson in the process. So they concocted a plan to pretend that Link is a caveman and live with Dave for the rest of the year.
It's so simple.
Well, it worked. They got food. They got a place to live. They got haircuts. Dave did become a little less horrible by the end of it. And I can prove basically all of this. Now, why pretend to be a caveman, you might ask? Well, there is good reason for that. I also just have to mention the hardest part of this theory was figuring out how Stoney had access to some kind of walk-in freezer to make the giant ice block.
Man.
But I figured that out too.
Can't wait to hear that.
So basically it starts out with an opening sequence where we see Link and his wife getting entombed in an earthquake. Yeah, that didn't happen. That's just like Stoney and Axel. So I think his name was actually Axel, but I'm going to get into that later.
Because that's what he wanted to call him, yeah.
Yes, it is. We'll get into that later. That was actually Stoney and Link just kind of discussing their plan. They were like, whoa, what if you were like a caveman? What if you got entombed in ice? He's like, yeah, cool.
That's the best Paulie Shore I've ever heard.
I know, that's exactly how he talks. Then Dave wakes up. He gets to work digging his own pool, which I don't think you can do. You can't just go dig a pool by hand. Not only would it not work out how you want it to, but you also got to apply for permission with the city council for a major thing like a pool.
Check for gas lines, water lines.
Yeah. Well, and
that's probably what happened. He probably hit a water line, not a glacier. It's sewage coming up in his pool.
Ew.
That's why Link's girlfriend is so dirty.
Yuck. Dave's out there digging his pool. Stoney walks in. He's already mooching off of the family, right? Sorry, he's already wheezing off the family. Dave's mom is wailing that he snaked her last bagel. And then David asks him to grab a shovel and help, and he says, nope, I just want to munch.
I thought it was pretty weird that he used the word snaked. I actually understood that. That's one of the,
should have said I wheezed her last bagel.
Right? That's one of the few slang words he used that I understood.
Stoney is too tired today to help him dig. Maybe because he was up all night burying a giant block of ice in that pool. He's already done enough digging. He doesn't want to dig anymore.
Dang, I thought he was just a slacker, but...
Well, and speaking of being slackers, Dave and Stoney start having a conversation about life, and basically Dave wants to accomplish something, and Stoney is like, no, just be a loser. We're losers.
Wow.
I'm horrible at Paulie Shore impressions. We're losers is how he says it. This is because he wants Dave to keep being a loser, living at home with his rich parents, so that he can keep mooching off of Dave and his rich parents. If Dave moves away for college, then he won't have really anything for Stoney to mooch. So he wants Dave to stay right here.
Okay.
So I've got a question for you. Stoney says something here that just was... I can't interpret it. And there's a lot of things he says that I can't interpret. But this
I barely
one's
understand
really weird.
a word he says.
So David's complaining that he accomplished nothing in high school. And then Stoney says, dude, you should be stoked though, buddy, because you got through the last 4 years without the full-on melon tweakage. What does that mean? What's he didn't get his boobs twisted? I don't know what
Yeah,
Stoney's celebrating here.
Yeah, it could be a reference to getting bullied, and maybe he didn't get bullied as much as he could have.
I kind of think maybe melon means head, and he's like, you didn't get brainwashed. I don't know, like melon tweakage. I have no idea, but like he, like as we learn in this movie, Stoney he's pretty studious. He actually likes learning.
Yeah,
so,
he does.
He doesn't dislike school. He enjoys school.
He takes good notes.
Stoney reveals his view on life. He says, truth is, bro, life's about greasing on the do-back, buddy. Wheezing on the buffest, man.
I've deciphered a lot of his slang words. What does grease and greasy and greasing mean? Do you know?
I think grease just means like anything that is kind of like underhanded, but good. Like, you know,
okay.
Like it's, you know, like if someone does something and you might be, oh man, that is greasy. Like, yeah, like you managed it, but it was like kind of not great. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think what he's saying, so he uses buff a lot. He calls things buff.
That was one I had trouble with.
Buff basically means like successful and or attractive. Okay.
But not necessarily both. Because he refers to Stanley Kubrick as buff, and I don't think he's attracted to Stanley Kubrick.
No, and that's only in his notebook.
That's in his notebook.
Yes. Basically, he's just saying life is all about mooching off of the most successful people, and that's what he wants to continue to do. Later that day at school, they're learning about prehistoric Cro-Magnon man. Mm-hmm. The teacher asks a question. He says, what were we talking about last week? Prehistoric man in the what? In the what? Nobody raises their hands in the entire class except for Stoney. Yeah. He's the only one, and his hand shoots excitedly up, and the teacher calls on him, and he says, the Ice Age. And then the teacher is like, yes, that's exactly right. He was actually paying attention last week. And he was paying attention because he was concocting a plan. Back at David's house, they're digging again, and David digs up a very cold clay bowl. Stoney immediately grabs it from him and starts to plant ideas in Dave's head. He says, I know what this is, bro. That's a Mousterian bowl.
Yeah, that's weird. He's correct. And
yeah. So
I don't know that.
Correct. Oh. Mousterian refers to an archaeological industry of stone tools associated primarily with Neanderthals in Europe and the earliest anatomically modern humans in North Africa and West Africa. So it's basically right. It's close enough that Stoney actually, has done some research and knows what he's talking about. It's in America, though, instead of being in Europe, North Africa, or West Asia. So, but no, it's really interesting that he knows this. And Dave is surprised that he knows this. And Dave is like, how did you know this incredibly obscure fact? And he's like, don't you ever watch Jeopardy? Which doesn't explain it at all. But he does love Jeopardy, as we find out in his notebook. He wrote a whole letter to Trebek trying to get on Jeopardy. The whole letter was written in answer question format. It was incredibly difficult to read.
Well, I mean, even in his notebook, he has he seems to have pasted in his notebook pages from his textbook about the Stone Age. So
absolutely, yeah.
He's got good notes on that. And also, one note I liked from the notebook is that there's a note about political correctness that says you should no longer say Homo sapiens, but non-traditional lifestyle sapiens.
Whoa. Oh, that's kind of funny, but also is that is that acceptable nowadays? Is that cancelable?
I don't know about that, but
he is really trying to plant the idea in Dave's head that this bowl is from the Stone Age. And I believe that he put that bowl there for David to find. In just a second, during the ensuing earthquake that happens, he trips and throws the bowl directly on top of the giant ice block that he wants David to find. I believe that he put that bowl there and he put the ice block there, and he's trying to get David to find it there. Dave only found this Iceman buried exactly where Stoney knew he'd be digging, and Stoney specifically directed him to dig there and planted the idea of a caveman in his head and planted the idea of Stone Age pottery in his head.
Not only is he a master manipulator, he's good at throwing things while pretending to be tripping so that they fall exactly
during
where
an actual earthquake.
during an actual earthquake.
He didn't expect there to be a real earthquake right then, but so it's also important to note, though, if you don't believe me, look at the dirt on and around the ice block that Dave finds. It's all loosely packed gravel and rocks, like it's just been filled in recently. The rest of the pool is tightly packed dirt, as if, it was just, someone still digging there. This is all, it's even a different color than the rest of the dirt in the pool, right?
And the one thing that I always thought was odd is that the ice is not glacier ice. It's like ice cube ice. It's totally transparent. Yeah. It's like freshly frozen ice, not a bunch of snow and dirt and stuff packed together for centuries in the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's clear. It's not quite clear enough for David to see exactly what's inside, but he does immediately announce, "There's a guy buried in my pool." They run back to the pool, and there are now cave paintings all over the side of the pool, which David is digging out, which definitely were not there last time we saw them digging. There were no cave paintings before. And also, these paintings aren't on like any rock or wall. They're just painted onto the dirt he had been digging, right? Like, it's impossible that he dug exactly where the paintings were just by accident. Like, no, these paintings would only be there still if they were on like a rock or something.
Yeah.
Stoney and Link definitely put these paintings there. And that's this is evidenced by, as they're inspecting the ice block, Stoney, first he says, "Dude, I know what this is. It's a caveman," planting the idea in Dave's head. And then when Dave is like, no, he can't be a caveman. That's stupid. Without even looking, Stoney points back at the paintings on the wall and says, "I'm serious." Like, he knew they were there. He didn't even look at them. He just points. He's just like, "I'm serious. A caveman. Look at those paintings."
Those paintings that weren't there a moment ago.
Yeah. The next thing that's revealed is that they have everything they need to move this gigantic ice block. They have a ride-on lawnmower, a wheelbarrow, a swing set, and some ropes, which they make a pulley system out of, which Stoney apparently knew exactly how to make a pulley system to do this, as if he's done it before. They are very quickly able to get this giant ice block out of there. So it would have been just as easy for them to get it in.
I think it would have been difficult, but I guess it's doable.
Is this ice block part of a giant glacier? You already mentioned that it doesn't look like
it's
glacier ice.
Yeah,
it's
like a big
it doesn't look like
cube.
A piece of a glacier. Yeah, it's like a bathtub shaped singular piece of ice, as if someone froze water in a container and brought it here. It doesn't look like a chunk of glacier that broke off at all. Stoney kind of completes the illusion by pointing out, look in there. That's his pits. That's his head. They're probably just looking at like a frozen mannequin that he put into the ice when he froze it.
Dang, Stoney was crazy in this plan. This is like serial killer behavior. He's like practicing freezing a mannequin in a bathtub.
You got to do what you got to do. He was kicked out of his home. Him and Link, they were both kicked out. We're gonna find out later. My next note is just, I think it's really weird that they apparently just slept on top of each other in the dirt and grass.
Yeah.
I mean, from Dave's point of view, why? But from Stoney's point of view, this makes perfect sense. This is another good piece of evidence that he is actually homeless right now. He references the fact that his family situation is not good at the moment.
So you believe that's where Stoney normally sleeps?
Yes, and Dave just joined him.
Okay, they just haven't noticed that Dave's friend sleeps in the dirt in their backyard.
Yeah,
poor Stoney. But when he first shows up at the pool the day before, and Dave is digging, his clothes are very clean, and he even says, "I just cleaned them. Why are you throwing dirt on them?"
Probably just went and wheezed some clean clothes from a store. We find him later in the movie wheezing food from the gas station.
I feel like stealing clothes is a little different, but...
So the next day at school, David is just overly excited to tell Robin that he found a caveman. I don't know why. He is certain that she is gonna fall head over heels for him.
Yeah,
because
this is
he
his
found
whole plan.
A caveman.
It's not a good plan.
That'll do it. That'll get her. So as they're at school, they've left the ice in the shed, melting, surrounded by heaters. When they get back, it's just melted, and there's a caveman there. They didn't see him burst out. Only Only we see him burst out.
And someone has left like muddy, bloody handprints on the wall.
Right, like Stoney just had Link come over, get all muddy, trash the house, leave handprints everywhere. It's really gross that he's drinking from the gutter. Maybe this is just how Link's been living, because he's kind of homeless at the moment. But yeah.
Just drinking gutter water.
Yeah. Either way. Dave never saw the ice melt. He never saw Link come out of it. He just came home, the ice was gone, and there's a caveman. But he believes that this caveman came out of the ice. Actually, it's just Stoney's brother.
The plan seems to work, no matter what your interpretation of the movie is. But I find it odd that Stoney would think that trashing the house would get them to let Link stay there. Let's smear some mud on the walls. That'll get
he's got to pretend to be a caveman, otherwise the whole thing doesn't work. Dave won't like sneak some random person into his house, but he will sneak a caveman into his house. I mean, clearly he will, right? We know he will because he does. So this plan does work. Like Stoney just knows Dave well enough to know what will get him going.
And the plan does work, even if he is an actual caveman, because his parents are just like, yeah.
Well, there's good reason for that too, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. This theory goes even deeper.
Oh,
just so you know. But yeah, they're getting to know Link. He immediately starts like repeating them and saying words when they say no as he's setting everything on fire.
Yeah.
He clearly knows how to talk. It's not like he's a man who's never used his vocal cords for anything more than like hooting.
Whoa.
They give him a bath using all the cleaning chemicals in the cupboard, which is so dangerous.
They would make like
bleach
chlorine
ammonia,
gas
they would
and
make
die.
Mustard gas. Yeah. But either way, they clean him up. He looks just like Stoney. You know, he's got the same hair, the same fashion. He elongates his words just like Stoney. He says, but and Stoney even points this out. He's like, hey, he looks just like me and he talks like me. Eh? Like, we're brothers.
Yeah.
David then says we got to give him a cool name, and Stoney immediately says Axel. And I think that's just because his name is Axel. I think Stoney's brother was named Axel, but unfortunately David disagreed and they ended up calling him Link. I don't think that Link minds. I think he kind of sees this as a way to run away from his past, and he's okay with having a new name, so they just go along with that. You mentioned Dave's parents, right? How they kind of just accept this whole thing. There's good reason for that. They're a bit freaked out that the house has been trashed, but they're talking to Dave about it. Dave says, "Oh, Link is a foreign exchange student from Estonia." As Dave is trying to convince them of this, his dad looks kind of like scared and uneasy, but the mom just looks confused and upset. Like it's hard to interpret what the dad is feeling. His mom says, "Why does none of this sound familiar to me?" But then the dad butts in and very carefully says, actually, I think that now I do recall something, all the while staring at Stoney.
Oh no.
So this is because Dave's dad is having an affair with Stoney's mom, and he is probably, he is Stoney's dad. But yeah, Dave and Stoney are half brothers, unbeknownst to Dave and his mom.
Gee. So I didn't even think the dad was an important character at all.
No, he is. And there's good proof of this too. So right now, Stoney and Link, they know that he has this secret family with them, and they're using that against him. They're pressuring him to let them stay there. He recognizes Link. He knows that Link is Stoney's half-brother from his secret family, and he knows that Link will reveal all his cheating if he doesn't play along. Otherwise, there's no reason. Why would he take the kid's side on this, except for to like protect some secret sordid affair? I mean, he even then says, he ends the discussion and says, "Okay, it's time for dinner. I'm hungry. Stanley, I assume you'll be joining us. We practically feed the whole neighborhood, so why not part of Estonia as well?" Like, he's so ready to accept this and go along with it. It doesn't make any sense unless he's like just trying to brush it aside as quick as possible.
I mean, it definitely always seemed weird to me how quickly they accept it, despite them having never, like, I assume you'd have to sign forms or something. Like, you can't just have a kid from another country stay with you.
So they take Link to school, and it's revealed that Link is not a caveman. He's not a caveman at all. He's just like a kind-hearted, kind of wacky dude. He is completely comfortable in his surroundings. he starts climbing around, making friends, and just having fun. Like, he's just a nice guy out of school. This whole time, Stoney thinks Dave's a jerk for using Link. I don't really understand how he's using Link, but
he is a jerk, though. He's correct about that.
Well, I mean, Stoney's sticking up for Link because Link's his brother, but David keeps saying, we found him. We can do whatever we want with him. I don't know what he wants to do with him.
I know.
But then Stoney...
It's a mystery.
Stoney cuts him off. He's like, we. No, you. I just want to be his friend. After school that day, it's revealed that Stoney and Link were clearly great friends already. They've been friends for a long time because they're brothers. Link and Stoney hit up a convenience store, which they probably do every day because they're homeless and they need food. And they're clearly just messing around. Stoney's pretending to be a caveman while loading up on snacks, and they're having some bro fun, right? Like, they wheeze the juice, they get candy, they get burritos, and then when they leave, Link puts on sunglasses, goes back in, and says, I'll be back. Which he wouldn't know how to do if he was a caveman. What?
Well,
why would he be parodying Terminator if he's a caveman?
He did see that scene on the TV.
Yeah,
supposedly.
okay. He wouldn't know the significance of that scene. He saw it before he'd ever heard a word of English. You know?
Someone who made this movie really liked that scene from Terminator.
Dude, when this movie was made, that scene was like the greatest thing ever, and still is, because Terminator is amazing. We made like 3 episodes about Terminator.
If David isn't there, why is Link so committed to his character that he's still in character if they go to this gas station every day?
Link's just messing around. Like, Link, he never acts caveman-y at all in this scene. He's just being a guy.
Well,
Stoney's the one who's acting like he's a caveman. Well, yeah, so does Stoney. I mean, they're like, Stoney's the one acting like he's a caveman just for fun. So yeah, they're just being bros. They're just messing around.
Okay. This Wheeze the Juice thing, that's where they stick their head under the slushy machine and they just drink it. That's the part of this movie that I remember most, I think, from when I was a kid. I don't think I remember a whole lot other than them thawing him out and wheezing the juice.
I didn't remember this part till I watched it again.
Really?
I mostly just remembered like the building the pool thing. To me, that was like so weird.
I didn't remember that Stoney refers to himself as a weasel, or that he uses this word at other points in the movie. And I always wondered, why is it called wheezing the juice? Is it because it's like you're choking on it?
No.
You're inhaling the juice. You're drinking it so much.
It's a verb that comes from the noun weasel.
I know that now.
To weasel, to wheeze.
I grew up with asthma, so to me, wheezing meant something completely different.
Whoa, inhale the juice. Oh, no.
I mean, that's kind of what they were doing. They're just like,
The 2 store clerks clearly knew they were going to steal and were watching them the whole time. And then when they started wheezing the juice, they were like, okay, stop stealing, get out.
Right. I guess
they knew what they were doing.
And random trivia, of course, Brendan Fraser and the store clerk here would later be in the movie The Mummy. Brendan Fraser, of course, as O'Connell, and the store clerk as Dr. Bay, the guy who runs the library.
The leader of the library, yeah. So they're all eating dinner together, and Stoney starts kind of razzing Dave's dad. He says, you know, Mr. M, the way I look at it, someday your daughter and I could be married, and we could be related. Which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I always thought that was weird.
It's very weird, but he's clearly playing on the fact that they are related. He's just trying to get under his dad's skin, right?
Okay.
He's like, yeah, couldn't we be related, dude? And then his dad is like, yeah, I count the days. And then immediately asks, so Stanley, how's your mother? Why would he be asking about Stoney's mom? It's because she's his lover. He's been having an affair with her. He's like, how's your mom doing? He's probably kind of like, do you need like money or something?
Stoney was threatening him by very subtly alluding to this in front of his family, and then he much less subtly alludes to the same thing.
Yes. Well, he's basically like, what do you want, Stoney? Like, how's your mom? Is everything okay? And then Stoney answers him and reveals everything is not okay and tells him what he's doing. Like, this is the best part of this theory. Stoney says, she's really bummed, Mr. Morgan. Hey, if you're edged because I'm wheezing on your grindage, just chill. Because if I had the whole Brady Bunch thing happening at my pad, I'd go grind over there. So don't tax my gig so hardcore, Cruster. He is literally describing how they're having severe family trouble and he's been kicked out and forced to live on the street with Link and they need a place to live. That's what he's telling him.
We might need to translate that sentence into English because I know that grindage means food, grind means eat, which is not generally what grind means. Sometimes it's the skateboarding thing. Cruster, right, I believe, is old man.
Yeah, it's just like old uptight dude. He basically just says, like, yeah, if you're mad that I'm, kicking it over here and eating your food,
wheezing your grindage, so mooching your food.
Yes, he's like, then don't be, because if I had a family, if I had the whole Brady Bunch thing happening at my pad, he's basically just saying, if I had a mom and a dad and everything good, like I'm supposed to have, dad, then I'd be over there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's like, my mom's not taking care of me, so you have to, Dad, Cruster.
Since it seems like Stoney is here all the time, wheezing their grindage.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the mom doesn't like it when he takes her last bagel, but the dad has accepted that they feed Stoney pretty much every day. So
yeah, because he's his son.
Why did he need such a complicated plan? It seems like he could have just brought Link and said he was a student from Estonia instead of convincing Dave that he's a caveman first and then having layer upon layer of lies in this story.
Yeah. No, it's because he is Dave's dad's son. Like Dave's dad is Stoney's dad, but Dave's dad is not Link's dad. Link came from another guy.
Okay.
Right? So he knows that he won't want to take care of Link, so he has to like concoct this whole weird thing to get Dave on board, because he's like, if Dave is on board, then that will just make everything easier for me. I'll be able to pressure the dad. We'll be able to smooth things over with the mom. He's just taking the easy road. He's not overcomplicating it at all. What are you talking about?
Well, Link, again, just very good at staying in character then during this scene, because he eats from the dog bowl, which is actually his bowl.
Yeah.
And then he eats a fly, maybe.
I mean, that's not so weird. I knew a guy in high school who would like to go around and catch flies out of the air. So
and eat them?
It happens. He didn't eat them, but he would catch them.
All right.
So then Link is going to go on a date with Ella at the ice skating rink, which is called Blades. This whole scene might seem rather innocuous in the context of my theory, but it turns out this scene is actually integral to my theory.
Oh, this is how he got the ice block.
I racked my brain trying to figure out how Stoney would have access to a place that can produce large quantities of ice. And then it hit me. The ice skating rink. The entire purpose of this place is to produce ice. Of course they have some sort of freezer or ice machine or something. And I mean, why include the ice skating rink in the movie at all, if not to provide a way for him to have created this ice block?
Is there any evidence that he is connected somehow to this ice skating rink?
Well, it turns out, as we've mentioned before, there's a tie-in book that was made to support this movie. It's only advertised like way, way, way at the end credits, like after everything. There's one line that says, check out Stoney's Encino High notebook. So we tracked it down. We read this entire book.
Very hard to track down, by the way.
Yeah, it's a valuable book nowadays. It shows that Stoney is much more invested in his studies and in Caveman than you might have guessed watching the movie. But I also found on page 36 of the book that Stoney has made a nug rating chart ranking various aspects of the girls that he knows and some fictional girls as well. And one girl in particular on this chart stands out. Her name is Amy M. And according to Stoney, she scored a perfect 10 in Bettyhood, Smooch City, Moppage, Bathing Suit, and Personality. Those are the 5 categories, and I didn't name them. Stoney named them, so don't get mad at me.
Moppage, I believe, is hair. Betty seems to be what they call just any woman.
Being a babe, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Amy M., according to his notes, is a waitress at Blades. She graduated last year, and she is quite warm for the Stoney man. They apparently go to Smooch City on the regular. She could have easily let Stoney in after hours to create his ice block in whatever container he brought with him. It would have been no problem for this, recently graduated waitress to let someone into the ice skating rink whenever she wants.
I guess. Okay, so she would have access to it after hours, most likely, if she's closing. Would she let Stoney in, risking her job to make a giant block of ice?
Why do you think he ranked her a perfect 10 in all categories? Yeah. Clearly, this girl is willing to, help him out with whatever he needs.
Okay, so it does establish that he has a definite connection of some kind to the ice skating rink blades.
All right. I'm glad I was able to prove that so conclusively. At the end of their time at Blades, Link saves David from Robin's boyfriend, Matt. He's bullying him, but Link yells, and then Matt comes, and he gets mad at Link, and then Link just absolutely tanks a punch and walks away instead of fighting back. Stoney explains to Dave that Link is a pacifist, which it sounds like he actually knows because, him and Link are brothers, and he knows Link.
He's very adamant that Link is a pacifist, and he even gives reasons because cavemen only fight for food. To me, hearing that explanation, I was like, did they? We don't know. They might have fought each other, for other reasons. They could, have posturing and I beat up that guy, now I'm the leader of the clan kind of thing. I don't know. It's odd that Stoney makes that deduction.
We don't know. But we do know that Link is a pacifist and that Stoney is right about it, which seems like he knows Link intimately, as if they were brothers or something. One of the following scenes shows our friend Short Round from the computer club.
Ke Hui Kwan.
His character was named Kim Sung. He makes friends with Kim Sung, gives him a big hug, stands up for him when he starts to get a little bullied. Basically just shows that Link is just a totally nice dude.
Wow, that's like an Oscar-worthy scene right there when they hug.
It is. It's really well acted.
2 Oscar winners.
Oh, man. The next thing, this is an important part of the movie. They go to the museum and Link kind of freaks out a bit. He has a bit of an existential crisis. It seems like
this is weird.
He is upset because he realizes he's from thousands of years ago and these bones are all that's left of his life. But I think that really he's having a crisis because he's tired of pretending to be a caveman. He's looking at all this caveman stuff around him. He's like, is this my life now? I just want to go back to normal. I just want to be a kid again. But he knows that he can never go back. He can't go back to that horrible family situation that he just got out of. So he goes and starts doing caveman stuff. He starts yelling and making fire and hiding in the corner. He's just kind of overacting the caveman thing now. He's like, I guess that's all I am. I'm a caveman. Doesn't that make perfect sense?
Because he wants to go back to being not a caveman, he decides to be more of a caveman than ever.
It's a reaction. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. He's trapped and he's like, well, I guess if this is what the world wants me to be, I'll be a caveman. Right?
So
he's had more success in his life as a caveman
light a fire
in
a museum.
And Stoney understands. Stoney goes over to him and he hugs him and he says, Link, it's okay. I understand. Family. We're family, man. He is. He's his family. He's his brother. It makes perfect sense, right? He's clearly a brother comforting his older brother who's having a bit of a breakdown. There's nothing more to it than that.
Okay.
I don't see how you could interpret it any other way. Basically, after they have a little run-in with the law, David decides he's had enough of Link. And he drives Link far away to dump him on the side of the road.
Yeah, pretty cruel thing to do.
Dude, Dave is such an asshole.
So bad.
So Dave gives Link a backpack, which I'm assuming might have some clothes in it. I don't know. He gives him a skateboard and he gives him a handful of quarters for Radmobile, the arcade game that Link loves. And as he gives him these quarters, Link looks at him like he can't believe this. And Dave is just the most worthless loser on the planet for giving him a handful of quarters.
It's a correct deduction.
If you don't watch anything else, watch that part of this movie, because the look he gives him is not the look of a caveman. This is the look of a man who knows exactly how much of a psychopath Dave is for ditching him with a handful of quarters and nothing else. Also, it's especially hurtful because Link just got kicked out by his family and has been living on the street. So he's like, oh, this again, great, like it really sucks. This is my favorite part of the theory because it makes the whole core of the story a lot more emotional and meaningful.
Yeah.
So luckily, Stoney shows up and tells Dave to call him back because he's like, this is my brother. Then they start fighting and Link has to pull them apart. Interestingly, he yanks Dave and only Dave off and puts him in a headlock. While growling, family. And then he caringly checks Stoney's wounds because Stoney's like bleeding all over. Kind of seems like maybe he cares a lot more about Stoney than Dave.
Well, he should, they're brothers. No matter
and
what.
Also because Dave's a jerk.
Yeah, Stoney has done fun things with him.
And they all say sorry and they hug. And that is pretty much it for my theory. The rest of the movie is they go to prom. Just as Link is about to be crowned prom king by a short round, Matt bursts in and declares he's a caveman, and they all love it. They're so happy that he's a caveman.
There are only two ways that would go. Either they just think Matt's an idiot, or they think, whoa, cool. Whatever that means, it must mean he's awesome. Yeah.
I don't know what Matt's trying to do. And Matt kind of got hit on the head and lost his mind. But yeah, he gets thrown in the cake and it no longer matters, apparently. So he's gone. Robin, though, they have a shot of Robin picking up the photos that Matt brought as proof. And she looks affronted. Like she's like, oh. And then that never goes anywhere. It seems like Robin's going to have a big problem with this, but she doesn't. Then they just go back to the pool, which is magically full of glacier water, and they all dance and party.
Maybe that's why now she's into Dave, because Matt's a jerk. He fell in the cake. She's not
She
interested in him.
realizes it was a caveman. She was into men who find cavemen. Dave was right all along. All he had to do was prove to her that he found a caveman. Oh my gosh, you should have just shown her those pictures. He's correct. Like, holy cow, he's the perfect man for me. A man who finds cavemen.
He knows her so well.
Oh man.
If only he had shown her those pictures.
He should have just done that from the get-go. Why did he instead show her a random picture of them as kids bathing together and say, hey, here's a picture of me and you naked. You can show it to whoever you want. He's so creepy and weird.
That's a really weird thing to do.
I hate Dave.
But those photos really aren't proof of anything, right?
Anything, no. They're proof of him standing next to a block of ice. That's it. And then, with a very dirty man.
Yeah.
Anyway, the movie ends with them finding footprints and smoke and drawings, and then it's Link's girlfriend, which they clearly just had her pretend to be a cave person so that she could join them in this crazy thing that they're doing.
Dang, I wonder how much they're going to try to exploit this family before the dad says that's enough.
In Stanley's notebook, there are some extra photos. And also there's a page implying that Matt, the bully, got a hold of Stanley's notebook as well and wrote in it. He's like, I got your notebook. I know everything now. Ha 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 ha. So one of the photos in the notebook does actually show a frozen man, like covered in like chunks of ice. Stoney wrote the note. He says, subject is most maximally unfresh. They wouldn't have had a picture of this. No, because they never saw him unfreeze. Also, it's clearly a photo of like a mannequin covered in ice. There is no way this is an actual man. It looks like plastic. So I think that the only way Stoney could have had a picture of this is if he froze a mannequin and took a picture while he was doing it.
Okay.
That's the only way he could have had this picture in his notebook. He couldn't have taken it when it was unfreezing.
I guess that makes sense with your theory. It would mean that
it proves my theory. He couldn't have taken this photo otherwise.
So he wrote all this evidence about Link being a caveman, then left it somewhere purposefully where Matt would find it so that Matt could corroborate his story about Link being the caveman.
Whoa, maybe.
I mean, why else is he writing all this fake stuff in his notebook that is lies, right?
But then there's also another really good piece of proof on one of the last pages of the notebook. He writes, Natural Science Report Conclusion. Question. What is the relationship of ENCINO Man to all weasels living on planet Earth today? And then he's got a picture of him and Link and Dave. And he says, answer, we're family.
Okay.
So there you go. What is the relationship of Encino Man to all weasels? They're family, which they are because he's his brother.
Well, I never thought I would be putting this much thought into this particular movie, but I think if you want to watch an old 90s film with Paulie Shore and Brendan Fraser, and you'd like to think about it in sort of a different way, then I think it's a fun way to view the movie again.
Wow. Okay, so you'd give it like 2 Stone Age thumbs up.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, though,
boy.
I read that this movie was released against 2 other like more popular films like Alien 3 or something and something else. And the studio decided to release it even against those other 2 films because they were like, it'll still succeed because of the strength of Paulie Shore.
Yeah.
And I'm
oh boy.
I only know Paulie Shore from this movie. Apparently he was famous before. I know him from this movie and the Goofy movies.
Yeah, he was in like
Futurama,
a movie where he had to live in a dome or something.
Oh right, yeah.
It was like a future dome, and he got in there by accident, and then everyone in there was uptight, and he taught them how to loosen up or something.
Oh, okay, so it's Footloose in a dome,
basically. Biodome. That's what it was called. Biodome.
Thank you so much for listening. Music for this episode provided by Christine. You can follow us on Twitter at Popcorn Isn't Real.
You can show your support on our Patreon if you like what we're doing, want us to keep doing it. It means a lot to us. We basically do all this in our free time, and it's pretty hard it takes a lot of effort to put in all the work to come up with these theories and find all the evidence and stuff. So any amount of support is much, much appreciated. And remember,
the popcorn isn't real.